And really the story goes when I was asked, what do you see yourself doing in 5 years, or what are you exactly looking for? What I said at the time to Gensler was, I feel like I had been fortunate to have worked with some of the most amazing people and the most amazing projects. And when I told Andy and Diane at the time that I had the best job on earth, being part of the Walt Disney Imagineering as an Imagineer. Remember, I'm just this kid that wind up with nothing in Abu Dhabi with so to be an Imagineer is something that I couldn't believe. But what I said to them was, I'm looking for a home. I'm not looking for a job. So if you can't give me a home, don't take the best job away from me. And, the story goes, 2 years later when I made partner at Gensler, the first word out of both of their mouth was, well, come home. You've wanted a home, and a home is what you got.
Welcome to the Trailblazers podcast presented by BST Global, where we feature the visionaries who are helping to shape the AEC industry of the future. My name is Javier Baldor, Chief Executive Officer at BST Global, and your host for today's podcast. Joining me today is Joseph, Partner and Chief Digital Officer at Gensler. Joseph, honored to have you here with us today on our podcast, and certainly wow, what an amazing keynote that you delivered. We'll get into that in a moment at our BST Global AI Summit. If you'd be kind enough to introduce our audience to Gensler and yourself, please.
Sure, Javier. Thank you for having us in the event this week, and also having like-minded, incredible trailblazers from all over the world. It's been such a great few days, and still looking forward to more. But I am a proud member of Gensler. I'd like to say that I am. People ask me where do I sit. I say I'm a citizen of the world, belonging to an incredible organization that is 100% employee owned, and is very driven by creating incredible human experiences and contributing to society and the built environment to put people at the intersection of space. And my role with the firm is Chief Digital Officer, and I'm really the lucky one that leads a group of incredible pioneers, digital leaders that span the world in 52, 53 offices around the world, operating in every time zone, and working across some really incredible market sectors and different types of scales, all with one purpose, which is designing a better world through the power of design.
Awesome. Well, Gensler, in my opinion, is the preeminent design and architectural firm in the world, and the standard by which all are measured. So I'll begin with that, my personal perspective.
Yeah, we agree with you. Humbly.
Yes. You have an amazing story and a fascinating life journey. I'd love for you to share your story with our audience, if you may, please.
I love that we're starting here because, our stories shape who we are, and I always feel that the world needs one more story. But my parents are minority Catholics from northern Iraq. They fled the political Saddam regime in 1975 through the Syrian border, where there was civil unrest. And I was born in Damascus before they went to Abu Dhabi, UAE. And my mother tells this amazing story as they were landing in the plane, and it was basically a desert, maybe one or two buildings, and she was wondering, what is she going to do there? My father was an engineer. My mother was a zoologist. And My uncles, all engineers, had migrated to the UAE in pursuit of being part of a movement that is going to help that country rise from, the desert and sand into what modern time UAE is. And I always, when I introduce myself, I like to share a couple of really important incidents that shaped who I am as an individual first, and as a leader second, because I fundamentally believe in knowing the human behind the professional. My father left us when I was 4 years old, literally and figuratively on the street. I have vivid memories of my mom having, one bag, we're in the street, no place to go. And, this is where she become my leadership role model to this day. She sacrificed and worked all her life. Never got remarried. Worked 3, 4 jobs to really put me through private schools and Jesuit schools and send me to the best education. And so that was the biggest influence of leadership in my life. And then the second one was just really being part of a developing country that made me fall in love with engineering, innovation, architecture, technology, as I saw the UAE develop with purpose, dedicating its resources to its people, but becoming a melting pot of diverse cultures to actually make that, place on earth that is untouched by humans rise to what's become. And the story that many people don't know is, because of seeing my mother work very hard, and watching her really suffer in the 80s and 90s, there was a huge love for me, igniting for human rights, working women, the West. And so there was this young dream of coming to the U.S. and building a life here. And in the Middle East, in order to be dubbed successful, you had to be a doctor, an architect, an engineer, or a lawyer in that order. And I was idolizing, the likes of Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, and I really loved what technology brought to humanity. But because Middle Easterners are really good in making you feel guilty if you don't do what your family pushes you to do. I wind up studying architecture at the Lebanese American University in Lebanon because I couldn't get a visa to come to the U.S. because I graduated high school right out of Desert Storm, and so there was no way as an Iraqi citizen I would be able to get a visa. So I went to undergraduate school in the Lebanese American University, went back to Abu Dhabi and practiced under two incredible French Lebanese brothers who were an architect and interior designer, a company called Cassia and Associates, where I learned a lot about retail and hospitality for a couple of years, and then managed to punch my visa to the U.S. and came to Oklahoma of all places.
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. I lived in Norman, went to OU, lived in Oklahoma City, and that begun just a really incredible journey that's now spanned 28, 29 years, just leading digital transformation for some of the most incredible design, engineering, construction, owner-operator organizations where, it's been just a marvelous journey for me.
What a story. Unbelievable. What what drives you having that type of um, history? Your mother, the sacrifice that she made, um, it must have really changed you, and it must have driven you to where you are, or motivated you, I would imagine, to where you are today. Maybe talk a bit about that as well, please.
Yeah, Mom, her work ethic was unbelievable, and it wired me at a very young age. I think that when I came to the U.S. and I became a computer lab assistant at Oklahoma City Community College, making $2.75 an hour, I thought I had arrived, to be honest. Little did I know that, I would have the privilege to be part of an incredible family, like Gensler, and we'll come to that story. I'm hoping, or be part of a great organization like the Walt Disney Company and everyone else that I've been part of. It's really weaved into my DNA, how fortunate we are to be able to take something so rough on your upbringing and turn it into something that
So
really
positive.
matters. And I'll tell you, I used to ask my mom when I was 14, 15, and of course I had to grow up very, very early, in a very sort of man-driven world in the Middle East. I couldn't even get in trouble in school, because if I got in trouble in school, that meant that I would have to have my mom get dragged between all these men in school, and I did not want to do that. So I had to grow up very early. I made up for it later in life, by the way. But what what happened is I had to really make. I wanted to make up for mom her suffering, and I would often ask her at the age of 13, 14, 15 years old, how can I ever make this up for you?
Wow.
And she would always say to me, make it worth it. And the way you make it worth it is make a difference, not only in your life, but in the life of others.
Of others, yeah.
And it's interesting, when I still chose digital and technology in my career, and that was in the late 90s, early 2000s, that was a big risk in our industry because it was honestly seen as an overhead necessary spending evil. But it really ignited inside this idea of being able to take people on a change management journey, in improving and leading. And I, of course, learned through many mistakes I have done, both personally and professionally, that the way to change people's hearts and minds is to really learn how to be selfless over time, and to really believe in your purpose and your calling. And I believe that was the purpose and the calling that was given to me through my upbringing. And so that's really largely what has gotten me up in the morning, every day.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Um, from Norman, Oklahoma to Disney.
I'm an okie dokie.
I did not know that. I did not know that. From OU to Disney and Gensler. Walk me through that journey.
Wow. You're taking me back memory lane. So I had two rounds in Oklahoma. I started my career working for GTE at the time, which was then bought by General Dynamics Worldwide Telecommunications Systems. And I was part of a team that was responsible for laying fiber optic cables in Air Force bases around the world. And I had really wanted to go to a more diverse metropolitan city with stronger digital transformation. And at the time, I wound up with two amazing opportunities, one that would take me to Dallas, Texas, or one that would take me to Virginia. And so I wound up choosing Dallas, Texas. And Dallas became my home for the better of 13 or 14 years. And through that journey, I was part of amazing organizations, from small interior design boutique firms that focus on very high-end flagship retail stores like Bloomingdale's, Federated Stores, Neiman Marcus, where I learned a lot about design and merchants, and had some really incredible mentors that embraced me and taught me a lot about life and taste and design and client relationships, to an engineering, very, very big E, small a firm that focused on parking garages and learning all about functional design and, spandrels and inverted T-beams and concrete, and being, a job captain during the day and an IT manager in the evening, changing backup tapes and building Exchange servers. Uh, and and it's interesting, when I left Oklahoma, I thought I would never return back to Oklahoma, but there was a moment where I met, I would say, my industry father, and somebody that I hold a lot of my leadership teachings from after my mom, a guy by the name of Terry Helms. Terry offered me a role of a lifetime. It was a company called the Benham Companies in Oklahoma, which was, the prominent AE firm. They had just came off of a acquisition that didn't work out, and they self-bought, and I was brought in to help with the digital transformation, and then also help with a merger acquisition with SAIC. And so it was really an incredible journey, because it was really a phenomenal experience with a very broad-based, true AEC body of work, from the Oklahoma Cancer Institute for OU to a renewable energy plant that was done full engineering, procurement, and construction in Plainfield, Connecticut, that burned wood chips and put energy back on the grid, to take this a NASA vibroacoustics rocket ship testing chamber that was a design-build project that was just really incredible, working with these incredible acoustics engineers and NASA scientists around the world. And really, Terry, believed in me, took me from this incredible middle management technology role, and taught me how to be an executive, and taught me how to lead. And the Disney experience happened because I was at a event like this, and I had a keynote, and some of the Disney executives were in present, and they reached out after the event and said, we're having a project management and construction management on-site, off-site retreat, and we'd like you come to speak to us about digital transformation. And it was an honor. It was just a moment that I still can't believe it happened. And this happened during my my cancer diagnosis, with being diagnosed with testicular cancer. And I remember being on the edge of the bed getting my diagnosis while I was in Oklahoma, and the doctor was giving me my diagnosis, and all I can think of, and what the treatment was, and all I can think of is, I have to go give that speech in 3 to 4 weeks, and I need to buy a motorcycle. Those are the two things that I thought, because I'd been 36 years old. I've always wanted a motorcycle, and I thought, I'm not doing this. So, when he was done, he asked me, do you understand all this? And I said, well, I'm going to travel in 3 to 4 weeks. And he thought I was losing it. So I did my surgery, and in 3 to 4 weeks, I traveled to Glendale, California, and I did the on-site, off-site. And the story that not many people know is, at the time, I took one of my mentees with me, who really helped me limp my way into the building, because I still had fresh wounds from the surgery, to actually give that speech. And during that speech, I met my second incredible life coach and mentor at Disney, which is Craig Russell, who was at the time the co-president of Walt Disney Imagineering, who oversaw, in a collaborative leadership model, design and delivery for all of Walt Disney Imagineering's portfolio of work, which includes parks, resorts, and cruise line ships around the world. And he said to me, Joseph, why don't you go back to Oklahoma and put together an assessment scope of Walt Disney Imagineering's digital transformation, and come back to us with a scope. And so I said, Craig, this is not, I was CTO of a large business unit. I said, this is short-sighted on my part. I said, this is not the sort of thing that we do. Um, and he smiled. He said, okay, but consider it. So I went back and I spoke to Terry. And Terry said, no, you absolutely got to do this. Um, you know, elevate one of your deputies, go focus on this for a year. Maybe we'll build a relationship to do design and construction work with them, or worst case scenario, they'll wind up hiring you. And Terry was very correct about that. So little did I know that it was an incredible year of interviewing, to learn about the incredible multidisciplinary body of work of digital and physical creativity, the art of storytelling, sophisticated engineering, the love for the guest experience in all places, and sort of what that really means. And it just really opened up a completely new world for me in the built environment and experience. And of course, it's culturally very different from being in Texas and Oklahoma to being in California. So that was really a completely different world. And so, that the relationships I was able to build, and really the many mentors that I wind up building in that year, was marvelous. And of course, fast forward, little did I know that I was building the strategy that I would wind up being asked by the Walt Disney Company to join and be able to oversee, leading for a few years to come after that. So that's the Walt Disney Company's experience.
Then comes Gensler.
And then comes Gensler. You ready for that one?
Let's hear it.
So, look, it was, I had done about 10 years of publicly traded companies. And I was ready for a change. And I went and saw Craig. Craig and I went to dinner. And I said, I am ready for a change. And he agreed with me. And he said to me, well, why don't you go meet with Andy Cohen, at the time our co-CEO at Gensler, today the co-chair of our board. Insert here my amazing teacher and mentor, and the guy that really gave me the chance of a lifetime to join an incredible family at Gensler. He said he knew how much I loved and respected Gensler, and I had a few offers from stealth companies. And he said, well, why don't you go run these by Andy? And he calls Andy in the background and says, we're about to have someone walk out on the industry and go to tech. So I go meet Andy, and my other incredible mentor in the firm, Diane Hoskins, also our co-CEO and today our co-chair. And they opened me up to this world of Gensler. And the story is I was late to that meeting, and I actually was home. I took mom with me so that I can use the HOV lane, and I raced down to downtown so I'm not late to meet with them. And mom waited for me in the Starbucks downstairs in the basement of the building. And I went and met with Andy and Diane for a better of an hour or two, and they come down. And as I approached mom in the basement of the building, she goes, "Oh my God, you're gonna come work at Gensler." And I said, "Why?" She said, "You just have, a light projecting from you." And really the story goes, when I was asked, what do you see yourself doing in 5 years, or what are you exactly looking for? What I said at the time to Gensler was, I feel like I had been fortunate to have worked with some of the most amazing people and the most amazing projects. And when I told Andy and Diane at the time that I had the best job on earth, being part of the Walt Disney Imagineering as an Imagineer, remember, I'm just this kid that wind up with nothing in Abu Dhabi with, so to be an Imagineer is something that I couldn't believe. But what I said to them was, I'm looking for a home. I'm not looking for a job. So if you can't give me a home, don't take the best job away from me. And, the story goes 2 years later when I made partner at Gensler, the first word out of both of their mouth was, well, come home. You've wanted a home, and a home is what you got. And it's interesting. I think that the moral of the story is how you go through these stages, in life. And at the time, I can't believe it's almost been a decade for me with Gensler, and it's the longest place I have stayed. And I've stayed because of the entrepreneur spirit, because it is a home. It is a true, incredible. We have something called one firm culture that is driven and woven throughout the DNA of Gensler. And so it's interesting when, the way I answered the question was, one is I'm looking for a home, and second is it doesn't matter what I'm going to be doing in 5 years. What matters is the journey and whom I'm going on the journey with, because everything else, pairs down by comparison. It's just been an incredible, and honestly, Javier, when I thought that I have a lot to bring from the owner operator side, having been part of incredible projects like Disneyland Resort Shanghai, Avatar: The World of Pandora in the Animal Kingdom in Florida, Star Wars Lands in Anaheim and Orlando, just incredible IP, incredible creatives, and incredible engineering construction firms. The 8-9 years that I've been at Gensler, I feel like I've truly grown up as a leader, as a human. This firm has given me so much in growth. It's really quite amazing.
I understand now why Gensler, according to Forbes, is America's best large employer, also recognized as one of the most innovative companies. Very powerful combination there. Obviously, you play a big part in innovation, you and your amazing team there. What are you most excited personally about the opportunity before you and also before Gensler as you look to the future?
Yeah. There's so much to be, excited about. Honestly, when I reflect, I think about the big risk that I personally took dedicating a career to a passion called technology that eventually became digital for our industry. And we finally have arrived at this moment where digital plays such an incredible role in everything we do. Consuming information, learning, teaching, making decisions, driving insights, making spaces more experiential and livable, being able to involve stories and interactivity and playfulness into spaces and cities, making our urban developments and our cities around the world, both the very developed and the about to be developed, more intelligent and more smart. It's an incredible superpower that I fundamentally believe is with complete optimism, I believe that the AEC industry is so well positioned to actually bring all of these superpowers to enhance the human experience at the intersection of our cities, our spaces, and how we live through life. And it's a great moment for us to be here, and that's what I'm optimistic about. I'm optimistic to be able to drive, to have so much more to give in building capabilities within the AEC industries for people to make this transformation. And there is there is something that I really fundamentally believe in, which is the overall mission um, for my amazing team that I'm privileged to lead, and I is not really about digital, but truly to elevate our value as humans to one of much higher purpose in the world by uh, giving commoditized tasks to compute and becoming a lot more, even more valuable to our clients and the communities that we co-design with and we co-create with. And so I'm super, super optimistic about that. I am also, for our firm, our purpose is an incredible purpose that wakes us up, which is, creating for a better and really an extraordinary design experience. I used to say, Disney puts people in dark places to make the world a happier place, and Gensler actually the broad and diverse scale and practice areas that we get to touch, whether it is workplace, whether it's healthcare, whether it is mixed use development, the future of retail, aviation, media and entertainment, critical facilities. I mean, the level of engagement that we have to be able to touch all of these projects and sectors at varying scales throughout the world and across all corners of the planet is really something that excites me in ways that I can't even begin to express. So really, the future and the world is our canvas, and it's all super exciting, and I'm very optimistic about it.
Well, as you describe, it's a once in a generation opportunity, all those factors coming together, and then you weave in this AI data. 10 years from now, how does this all look, both for Gensler and for the world? I mean, what do you see are the possibilities to reimagine what's before us?
Yeah, I allow me to be a hopeless romantic a little bit. We're still learning and we're still imagining. And if I ground us into this conversation, uh, you know, I I actually let's start with the way we design and we co-create and we deliver our work. Um, Stories are going to lead the way. If you look at Gen Z and Gen Y, and they're they're so driven by purpose and they're so driven by stories and how important it is for us to be able to tell creative and design stories is something that is going to be very critical for the next decade or two. And how amazing is digital transformation, and it's already allowing us to do, as you saw in the keynote yesterday. Uh, it's also it's using the power of automation to actually allow ourselves to free up ourselves to do a lot more impactful and meaningful work with focus on our clients to drive a lot of their decision making that they make about their precious assets. Our clients are making investments not for building's sake. They're doing it because they want to build projects that withstand generations to come and stand in front of the many different challenges that the world is going to face. I think that we are going to see a different, engaging, and incredible experiences that we see in our buildings, where our buildings are going to react to us. They're going to welcome us very differently. Entertainment venues are going to help us engage through the power of information and through the power of experience, it's going to be very different. Data insights, as we're not just creatives, we're also strategists, and there is all these important insights about how we as people perform in our workplace, how we perform as a business, as a pro forma. How does our planet performs from a climate perspective as well? And so all that is driven by information and data and insights and intelligence, and rooted in all of it in where our opportunity is as creatives, designers, engineers, builders, is how do we harness storytellers, is how do we harness that power to actually create something amazing for the world for decades to come. I'm super optimistic about all of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want to personally thank you for joining us on this episode of Trailblazers. You personify every sense of that word. And your story, your life story, your personal journey is remarkable. And your mother's as well.
Thank you.
And very, very amazing. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your amazing keynote you delivered, the stories you share. It comes from a very, very special place. And I wish you and Gensler the very best. And thank you again for the honor to host you, not only at our summit, but also on this podcast.
Thank you. I'm honored to have been here. I learned a lot from the last 2 days. Javier, thank you for your generosity, your kindness. Your team is absolutely incredible. Meeting your mother, who co-founded the firm, was incredible. She owns my heart for the rest of my life.
Yeah, you're too kind.
And honestly, I will say, it's important for me to say that I owe all of it to the incredible mentors and teachers that have opened their arms and taught me so much to this day, and also to every single team member that I have that have trusted me with their precious career, and believed, in the vision and moving things forward. And can't wait to see what's ahead of all of us in this industry.
Amazing things are ahead.
Yeah.
I can see that and I can feel that. So all
Thank
the
you.
best. Thank you very much. And thank you to our audience for joining us today on the Trailblazers podcast. Until next time, take care.